Well, hello. Welcome to the Nothing is Wasted podcast. I'm so grateful that you're joining us again for another great conversation. And for the final time, I'm right here in the Moncton, New Brunswick airport. If you've listened to the past several weeks, you know why. I'm leading a pastor's conference in Sussex, New Brunswick, and I'm heading home, heading back to my family. Can't wait to see them. It's going to be such a sweet, sweet thing to embrace those kiddos and my wife. I love the calling that I have to travel, preach, and help pastors and ministry leaders as they're creating environments in their church where people can heal, help people meet people in their pain all over the country, and help to provide a pathway through. I mean, that's what Nothing is Wasted is all about. But I just love going home and being with my kiddos, being with my wife, taking some time to rest. So looking forward to a little bit of that. In the meantime, you're joining me here in the Moncton, New Brunswick airport as I'm waiting to catch a flight to Montreal, then to Chicago, then to Indianapolis. So it's going to be a long travel day. So that's why I need that guy right there, old Timmy Hortons. If you are at all familiar with Canada, you know that this is liquid gold. That's where it's at. If you listen to this on a podcast platform, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You just hear background noise, and I apologize for that. But today we have a great conversation with my new friend, Charles Metcalf. And Charles lives in Tulsa, Oklahoma with his wife, Abby Rose. Together they have 4 beautiful children: Arlo Phoenix, Luna Rose, Jade October, and Blue Sunday. Incredible names. I just love the uniqueness of those names. And Charles currently serves as a campus pastor for Transformation Tulsa. And he just is a very dynamic pastor, communicator. He really has, I was just very impressed with my conversation with him. I hadn't met him before, but we got on the podcast to record, and I was just like, wow, this guy, I mean, just really impressed with him. He went through a series of, pastors experience a lot of pressure, a lot of, in fact, the retreat that I was leading, I was trying to help pastors with their pain and their pressure that they experience. And the whole thing was about soul care. And how do we stay in the game for the long haul? How do we make sure that we're not sacrificing ourselves or our families on the altar of ministry? It can be very easy to do that, to pursue an ambition, building the kingdom of God, and leave everything else that is priority in your life in the wake of destruction. And so, my pastor or my counselor told me that self-care isn't selfish if Jesus is in the center of it. Self-care isn't selfish if Jesus is in the center of it. It's actually good stewardship. You see, self-care should not be the end in and of itself. It's a means to an even greater end. And the greater end is that we want to pursue God and build his kingdom for a long, long time. We want to be in the game for a long time. And unfortunately, there's so many stories of pastors who are burning out, flaming out, disqualifying themselves. And now I will say this, for every story that you hear in the news, there are hundreds of pastors who are serving faithfully, who are finishing well. But every single pastor starts out going, I want to do this thing for the long haul. I want to get to the end of the race and hear, well done, good and faithful servant. But somewhere along the way, you lose yourself in the midst of all of the ministry hubbub. So in this conversation, Charles is honest about some of the depression, anxiety, panic attacks that started to overtake him and what he had to do to navigate through that. So I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. It's not just for pastors. Anybody who's feeling pressure in life, which is all of us, we can be susceptible to this. And so I'm excited for you to hear from Charles Metcalf. He wrote a book called God Chose Me, Untouchable Confidence for the Unstoppable Christian. We're going to put a link in the show notes for you to get a hold of that. Before we dive into my conversation with Charles Metcalf, let me point you in a couple of directions. I believe at this point, the wait list for our BTCS course, our Biblical Trauma Care Specialist course, I believe the wait list has opened up. So enrollment for the next cohort of that course, it's a 10-week course helping you to really enhance your level of care for others. So pastors, ministry leaders, counselors, therapists, first responders, medical providers. This is a fantastic 10-week course to become trauma trained, trauma informed. I believe the wait list has opened up in terms of signups that we've just opened to the wait list. If you want to go get on the wait list, you can go to nothingiswaste.com/BTCS. And if you want to find out more information about the course and the upcoming cohort, go to nothingiswaste.com/BTCS. Also want to point you in the direction of, if you want to get started in your journey or figure out where you are on your pain path, go to nothingiswaste.com/start here, fill out that 6-question assessment, and we'll send you some next steps and some resources to help you move through your valley so that you're not stuck in your valley. Well, Charles, great to have you on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. Thanks for joining me.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you just start, there's going to be some folks who are watching this, listening to this. They don't know who Charles Metcalf III is. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us where you're from. Tell us about your family, what you do. And then we're going to dive back into a little bit of your story, because you've got some really, a journey that I believe is going to relate to a lot of people, especially today.
Yes, Charles Henry Metcalf III. That is my name. I grew up, my mom, she always said people always were tempted to give me nicknames, Charlie or Chuck, and my mom would always correct them. And she would lean over and whisper to me, say, if I wanted you to be called Chuck, I would have named you Chuck, but I named you Charles. So yes, Charles Henry Metcalf III, born to Michael and Michelle Metcalf in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Actually born in Louisville, Kentucky, but grew up in Bowling Green. And a beautiful part of my story, my parents had me very, very young, and I was born on my mom's 20th birthday. And that is a key part of my story, because I think my parents displayed such a kind of just grit and hard work and this kind of us against the world, we got to figure this thing out kind of attitude, because they were young, even being an interracial couple. My dad's Black, my mom's white. And so some of the area that they lived in Kentucky, there was just, they would get looks sometimes walking in places. And so I say that because the Metcalf DNA had this just hard work. We're going to figure it out. We can do it. And a part of that journey, that my dad starts working at a car dealership, and the guy who owns it is bivocational, and his name is Van Grimes. And Van owned a car dealership and ran it, a super tiny one in Kentucky. But he also pastored, and that was my family's entrance into church. My mom and dad met Van, and he completely took our family under their wing. It was a young couple who didn't know what they were doing. They had just had a baby, got married right after they had me, and he just took them in, discipled them, like showed them what it meant to stay faithful. My parents' marriage, as just, any marriage, but especially that young, they didn't know what they were doing, and moments of where they wanted to give up, he kept them together, and hey, this is what you got to do, and getting in church. And so that was a core part of my family. And that is how I landed growing up in the church every single Sunday. We were there, and we were there every single day. Grew up in a tiny church at the end of a cul-de-sac in Kentucky with like 20 people in it. And that's kind of my origin of church and Jesus. Is kind of felt like this is who we are. This is what we do. Like, we are in God's house all the time. I grew up playing sports a lot. So I played football, basketball, soccer, race BMX. I did a lot of different stuff. But the most consistent thing in all that was the church. No matter what season it was always a church. I wasn't allowed to miss sporting events for church. It was like, hey, and I kind of wore it as a badge of honor. Like, my coaches knew, like, hey, if there's something going on, like, Charles is going to be at church. And so it was just a beautiful foundation in that way. And my dad actually, Van, I said that Van ended up getting sick with cancer, and he's in the hospital. My dad's there, and this is like a marker story for our family. But Van looks at my dad, and he used to call him Bubba. And he says, hey, Bubba, he said, you're going to take over that church. He's like, God's put a call on your life, and you're ready. And when I go to be with him, you're the lead pastor. And that's how my dad became a lead pastor. Was he had been serving, he had been there, but Van left the church to my dad. And so that was the Metcalf's kind of like, all right, we don't feel like we're ready, but we're going to step up to the plate and we're going to do it. And so, yeah, man, that's like our foundation. I have a little brother who's 8 years younger than me. And he's my best friend now. Him and his wife are me and my wife's best friends. They live in California. And so, yeah, that's my tiny, tiny origin story. Fast forward a little bit. I met my wife, Abby Rose. We've been together for 10 years now. We have 4 kiddos. I have a 6-year-old son named Arlo Phoenix. And then I have 3 daughters, Luna Rose, who's 5, Jade October, who's 3, and then Blue Sunday, who we call Sunny, who's 2 years old. And so that's the Metcalf crew. We're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, serving as executive pastors and campus pastors at Transformation Church, and absolutely love it, man. It's beautiful. So our house is always loud. We can't walk anywhere quiet. But that's kind of, I never imagined we'd be the big rowdy family. I knew we'd be rowdy because Metcalfs are always rowdy, but having 4 kids, 6 people, it's a whole ordeal, but it's fun, man. It's beautiful.
Wow. I'm curious. You alluded to it earlier, right? It's kind of a breeze over, but being a part of an interracial family, especially in that region of the country, that had to be extremely difficult. And it's unlike nowadays with larger cities, major metropolitan cities, it's a lot more just readily commonplace. Like, this is just part of life. It's part of the melting pot of being a citizen of the United States of America. This is what we are, right? But where you grew up, especially, my wife is half Asian, and then her daughter from her previous marriage is half Mexican, half, quarter Asian. So that we have a lot of these conversations right now, and my eyes were, I'm white as white can be, right? You can tell. And so my eyes were opened up to that quite a bit when we got married. Yeah. And it was like, oh, I didn't realize some of the intricacies of that, as she lived in some small town rural areas, and just how accepted or not accepted it was. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, you seem to have a real good kind of understanding of your origin story, your family of origin, which is going to be fun as we talk about this conversation and how maybe it bled into some of the stuff that you've dealt with. But talk a little bit about that kind of interracial stuff you dealt with.
I think my mom and dad did a powerful job of, they didn't overplay it and didn't underplay it. So I was obviously aware of, like, hey, dad's black, mom's white, and even how that played culturally. Like, I think I always joke, I grew up listening to Run DMC and Willie Nelson. So that was my melting pot of mom and dad's music. And my mom liked both of them, my dad liked both of them. But that was, my dad loved James Taylor, and my mom loved Special Ed, a rapper back in the 80s. Like, but you probably can't say his name anymore. I don't know if that would be cancelable. But anyways, so they did a good job of, like, I didn't really think anything about it. I started to recognize it, though, based upon how I went to different schools at different times. So I always say, like, there were some schools I went to where I was the white kid because I went to an all black school, and I was the kid who was like, oh, your mom's white. They would see my mom and they'd be like, oh, okay. But then there were some schools I went to a private Christian school for a long time where I was the black kid. It was me and another kid named Aubrey Dixon, and we were the only black kids in the school. And so it created this dichotomy of, like, okay, what does that mean? But my mom and dad, again, they never really played into it. But there was a moment I remember in school where certain things started happening and I didn't register it, but I would say comments to my mom like, well, they just say and I can't even remember some of them, but I remember my mom, I remember specifically, she would ask, like, what did they say? And I could tell she was catching something that I wasn't. And there would be moments where she would just say, hey, like, just be careful. Make sure you're clear about that. Or I don't know if those friends are the best type of people for you. And this is probably 4th, 5th, 6th grade that these comments start to kind of like, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I know, like, okay, some people maybe don't like my mom and dad or think I'm something. And I don't really know what that means, and again, don't give it too much attention. But I'll never forget, it was my freshman year of high school. Long story short, there was a girl I was dating. Her mom called my dad's work and started, like, making up all this stuff, complaining, yelling, all this stuff that I had done, all these things. And long story short, then my mom ends up calling. I was like, what is going on? Blah, blah, blah. And long story short, I have this whole conversation, but the girl I was dating at the time, she said, hey, my mom said that we can't date because your mom and dad, it's not right that they're together and we shouldn't be together. Like, and I remember at first I thought, like, they're not right that they're together. What do you like? I genuinely wasn't even registering what she was saying. And then I realized, like, oh, you mean, like, because my dad's black and mom's white and I'm mixed, she doesn't. And that was the first time I remember I just got so sad. Like, I had never felt like, I think many times we find out stuff that maybe is perceived wrong about us. Yeah. And we try to change them. So people don't like how I dress. People don't like how I talk. And so I adjust and I change. But this was the first time I felt like, well, I can't do anything about that. How can I can't. And so, yeah, man, I think that brought a deep level of like sadness and just this strange kind of like, what? That's in my life. Like, I got to think about that now.
True.
So, yeah, man, I think that was one of the first big times that I realized that. And then we'll talk about it more. But yeah, that dichotomy definitely, I didn't realize it, but definitely was in my heart, in my subconscious, just in general. Like there's a part of me that some people accept. There's another part of me that a different group accept. And now you've got to be aware of which one it is and when do you show up and how do you show up.
True.
So,
wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which can become extremely disorienting in the sense of like, okay, how do I play the chameleon in this part and then play a different part over here? And who am I really? And am I actually accepted? Right. That's one of the things my wife has said is like, I didn't know where exactly I belonged.
Well, you just don't know what to do. And I think everybody's deepest desire is we just want to know people care and that we're accepted as we are, and we'll do anything we can to get there. And so it does, the way they say it nowadays in culture is code switching, where it's like you're one way around one person, you're a different way around other people. And I think some of that is human nature, but it definitely exposed it at a different level for me, because early on, just based upon my friend group and my race and what I was into, it was like, oh, okay, I figured out these people, you act this way. These people, you act this way.
Yeah.
When I'm at this person's house, we do these type of things and listen to this type of music. But when I'm at these people's house, we don't do that. You don't bring that up and you talk about other stuff. And so it very much so. It's such a strange experience because, you hear those experiences of actors who do method acting and, they get lost kind of in who the character is and which part is me and which part isn't. And I think to an extent, that's what can happen to us. We start to realize, like, do I actually like this, or does the version of me that I play around them like this?
Wow.
Or, like you start to get into these kind of ideas, and really, I mean, it can happen at an early age, but it's an identity crisis. You don't know who you are and what you are. And so what you do is you just follow the path of least resistance.
True.
And many times, sadly, that doesn't always lead to our healthiest and most authentic self.
Yeah. 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 Wow. Well, I think that's why it's so powerful. This book that you've written is called God Chose Me. This seems to be a mantra that kind of strikes right at the heart of that. Whether it was intended to or not, I feel like the things that we go through, our circumstances, we filter it through so many different filters. It's like a matrix, but one of them is our family of origin. One of it is like the lies we begin to believe about ourselves, about God, and about the world as we're growing up, and how the enemy played on actors or characters in our story to feed into those lies, to try to disrupt really our true identity in Christ. And so you've written this book, but a lot of it comes out of, and you share a really vulnerable season of your life, in what you experienced with some wrestling of, where do I belong? What is going on here? Talk to me a little bit about that. Share what led up to this. What was the inspiration behind writing this book?
So I get into ministry at, the blessing and the ridiculously of getting into ministry at 20 years old. I am 20 years old. I get hired as a youth pastor, and part of my head now, not old in the sense of my lifespan, but older. So that was 12 years ago. And I'm thinking, who in the world hires a 20-year-old as a youth pastor? What a terrible decision. Like
at the time you think it's great, right? I mean, I became a youth pastor.
I'm like, exactly. Like, this is incredible. But now I'm like, what in the world? Like,
you thought you had the world by the horns, man. And you're like, going, I was an idiot.
A complete idiot. Had no idea. And it's so funny. So anyways, but I get hired super young, and again, I think this is one of the beauties and the difficulties of ministry is it's very easy to identify someone by their gifts. And so God, nothing in my doing, but had given me a gift to just be able to communicate. And so I remember there's this big youth conference where I'm a leader I'm a servant leader, and someone's speaking. They ask me, hey, could you hop up on the stage and introduce them? I jump up there. The person ends up being late, or they can't find them. And I end up talking for like 20 minutes just in front of a room full of 2,000 kids. And I'm 19 years old at that time. And I come off the stage and somebody's like, hey, have you ever thought about like ministry and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, like, I don't want to do that. Like, my dad did that. I don't dislike it. I love church, but that's just not what I want to do. And so long story short, that's my jump in. And so all I have is just this natural charisma, and I can talk and make people laugh. And that's really it. Like, no other basis for anything. Like,
Yeah.
I do love reading the Bible, and in a weird way, like, because of my dad, I grew up listening to sermons and like would do that randomly. So I grew up listening to TD Jakes tapes and all these Rod Parsley and like all these old preachers that like I grew up listening to. But that's really all I have. No leadership capability, no understanding of who I am or what ministry is. So all that to say, I just start going. And, one of the worst things that can happen is everything starts working. Is, like, I'm good at it.
Yep.
I'm good at it. It works. I am successful at youth ministry. Then me and my wife, we feel led to start a church. We're way too young to start a church. We're 23. But the root of it is in my head, I've been in ministry 3.5, almost 4 years now. And the root of it was a beautifully pure place. Was I had a bunch of friends who love God, but didn't want to come to the church I was at. And not for any other reason other than the church was way out in the suburbs. And I lived downtown in a studio apartment with my friends, with my wife, and close to my friends. And so we're at coffee shops. We're in the downtown area of our thing. And they respect me. And I've built all these friendships and relationships that people, they're like, yo, we this, and I'm sharing God. But they're like, we're not coming out there, bro. Like, we're not going to go listen to him. He's corny, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I knew they would listen to me, though. And so I just felt like, if I'm going to do ministry, I am not going to be driving out here to talk to these people who think I'm dressed weird, don't want to listen to me anyways. Like, I wanted to impact these people that I love. Like, why? And so that was a wrestle for about a year. But me and my wife, we step out, start this church, and we do it. And again, it works. The first service we ever have, we prepare for like 30 people, 110 people show up. And it just like, it's all young people. This is part of the story. That's how I end up meeting Pastor Mike. His little brother started coming to our church, was asking him to drive him to our church. So that's our connection. Is we had services on Sunday nights. So he's driving his little brother. He hears about, we get connected. Long story short, after doing the church for a year, I feel like I'm led to shut down the church, go serve at Transformation Church as like a volunteer. We do that. Fast forward, I become the creative pastor, then the executive pastor of the church. That brings us all the way to 2020. And I've been at Transformation Church now for how many years would that be? 4 years or 3.5 years. And again, a lot of responsibility. It's 6 years ago. So I'm 25, I guess, 26. Yeah, 26. And I'm the executive pastor of a church. Our church is 5,000 people. Yep. We have 20,000 people.
Rapidly growing.
Oh, it's just ridiculous.
You're just sprinting. Again,
I'm just running. I'm going. And again, I've learned enough leadership apt. I've read enough books. I've failed enough times now that I at least have enough to know, like, I know some of the baseline stuff. Right. And what I don't know, I can make up for in hard work. Again, hard work, charisma, and just figure it out. Like, because again, that's kind of even my attitude for my parents that I talked about earlier. Right. Like, even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm definitely just going to try, and I'm going to get in there and we'll figure it out. So anyways, man, long story short, as COVID happens, I joke about it. I think I say it in my book, but everyone's easiest year of their life, 2020. Super normal. Yeah, exactly. Super normal. Nothing too different. But anyways, we're in that. And as what we were doing is we were doing batch recordings of services. So what we would do is we would record a worship set, scripture reading, announcements, all those different things in these 4-week stints. And then our pastor would maybe record one sermon, 2 sermons, or he might preach it live, just depending on the schedule and how everybody was doing. So all that to say, what I learned about myself is no matter what I was going through in life or internally, church, and this was back to my whole life, church always served as a place where I was recentered, resettled. And even in ministry, I kind of just always resubmitted myself even before walking up on a stage. It's something I had in me from like when I got into it, because I was so aware of how young I was and
Mm.
unequipped I was. Before I walked on any stage, grabbed a mic, or spoke in front of a leader or a room, I was always just like, God, I know I can't do this without you. I
Yeah.
cleanse my heart. I repent. Please you. Like it was just I was with God and read my word every day, but Sunday was just like a
Yep.
significant marker for that. Well, we don't have Sundays anymore. Those are
Mm.
gone. And so there's this missing, I didn't realize, check that was always kind of like a reset, refresh place for me that's gone. And so my system has a leak somewhere that I didn't realize was such an important part of it.
Wow.
And so that's what happens, man. I start getting heavy. I start feeling depressed. I kind of start feeling overwhelmed. I start feeling, again, we go to 2020 as a year full of racial tension.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy that is stuck in the middle of that again. Like I'm
Yeah.
still like, oh my gosh, how do I feel about this? And I have family members who feel one way and family members who feel a different way. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in two
Yeah.
different group chats as a mixed guy, honestly. Like, so that is weighing on me, like just the pressure of that, of like, oh gosh, like how do I feel about this? So all that to say, man, it leads me to a crippling depression. And it is, I'm able to, again, through talent, through talking, put on when we need to do these recordings and go, but I'm just not well. And because everybody's going through it, I don't even have my normal check-ins with my normal people. I mean, my
Yeah.
pastor's checking on me, Mike, like he's like, you good, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, we're just trying to everybody's just,
Just
the
figuring it
world's
out.
cooking
Yeah.
everybody. So like, we're all like, is
Totally.
everybody okay? Cause I'm not okay,
Yeah.
but like, figure it out. So anyways, fast forward, it ends up landing me at a place where uh, our offices were completely closed. But at the time, I was going into the offices because it felt like more of a break from just getting out of the house. And so
Mm.
nobody was up there. So it was safe for me to go up there. And it leads me to a place, I'll never forget, it's April 29th, 2020. I am up under my desk and I'm journaling in this journal that I had labeled the 151st Psalm. There's 150 Psalms. And this was me saying, hey, God, this is my last, like, kind of cry out to you because
Mm.
I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to survive here. I can't deal with this pressure. I can't deal with the weight. And what I felt was the compounding responsibility and burden of, I don't know who I am. I
Mm.
don't know if I have what it takes to do all of this, meaning ministry, be a faithful husband. I have two kids at this point that are super little. And I'm just like, I realize like nobody's taught, I don't know what I'm doing. And
Mm.
like, this is a lot of pressure. And like, what if I mess this up? What if I'm not who people think I am? What if I make a mistake? Like, I can't. And to me, what I realized was, to me, the idea of escaping this responsibility was because I just didn't know if I had it in me to keep going. And it's easier to just give up than to try and fail, because I
Mm.
didn't want to try and realize, see, you didn't have
You
it.
didn't
You
have it.
couldn't do it. It's not in you. I would rather just be like, oh, I gave up, so we'll never know. We'll never know if I could have done it, if I could have become the pastor, could have become whatever. And so, yeah, man, I write this letter and I just don't know what to do. At this also time, never in my life, I've dealt with anxiety. I started dealing with crippling anxiety. I've never dealt with anxiety like my wife has, and I was aware of it, but start having panic attacks. And so I had a panic attack in the middle of preaching a pre-recorded sermon. Like I'm preaching, I fly through my notes. I look up at the clock. There's still 20 minutes left on the clock. I am like, oh my God. So I'm like internally spinning. But
Mm.
like also my brain is in Charlie Brown, like just like, I don't know what I'm saying. Camera shuts off. I run out of the room into one of the back rooms, start bawling, crying, collapse. And my friends have to like calm me down, help me. So it's just
Wow.
I mean, there's so many stories amongst that year, but yeah, man, it was one of the darkest and out of control places. And I think it felt like being buckled up in a car that you're not driving, that you don't know who is driving,
Yeah.
that is going faster and faster and faster. And it's just like, I have to jump out of this car is what it felt like. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, man, that's the place where this book finds its origin. And I
Wow.
think it's important to have spaces like this and your honesty and the transparency you've built, because it's like people need to know
Yeah.
that this is not born from it. You say it now, oh, God chose me, and people see clips of me preaching and I'm
Right.
yelling and screaming and confident, and
Yeah.
but that's not where you find out who you are. You don't find out who you are up on that stage. You don't find out who you are when you make money. You found out who you are when you got nothing left.
Yeah.
And that's where this was born. It was born out of, I don't know if anybody would choose me. I don't know if anybody knows or would really, if they knew how dark my mind was and my heart was, who would ever care? And I think that was kind of where I was, man. And there's one moment, and we can kind of move on from this, but one moment where I had a panic attack. It was really, really, really bad panic attack. And I literally panic attack myself, and I just fall asleep, like into a sleep. Like
Wow.
I started having it probably 11 o'clock at night, and I'm shaking, can't breathe, and fall asleep. Well, I kind of start to wake up, and I kind of gain awareness before I open my eyes. And when I kind of wake up, my eyes aren't open, but I can still feel the tremor of all the anxiety. And I kind of just feel like, gosh, it's all still there. Like, like I'm kind of just
Yep.
so disappointed. And then right when I think that, I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I hear somebody say, hey, we're all here. And I immediately recognize who it is. It's Mike. And I open my eyes, I look across my bed, and it's 2 a.m. And then I look right to my right. Mike is there. Natalie, his wife, Pastor Nat. My friend Aaron is standing at the end of the bed. My wife is sitting in the bed with me. And Bree is sitting on this side of the bed, sitting up. And my wife was so terrified. I had never stopped shaking from the panic attack.
Wow.
I was still into my sleep. She said I was shaking. I was moving. She was she called them at 1 a.m. and was like, hey, I don't know what's going on with Charles. I'm terrified. Can you please come? And so at 2 a.m, they all come over. Mike and Nat brought all 4 of their kids. They're asleep on our couch, just laid out in the living room. They're in my bedroom. And immediately I'm so embarrassed because these are my friends. Like, these are my close friends, but also this is my most vulnerable. Like, I am not the strong guy who can preach a powerful sermon that has revelation and all these things. Like, I'm the guy that can't control his own breathing. And I'm so embarrassed. And so I immediately like close my eyes and just start crying, like slow, just deep tears. And what I'm thinking in my head is, what is wrong with you? Get it together. Like, see, you don't have it. You don't have what it takes. They're going to take leadership from you. They're not going to let you preach anymore. This is like, and I'm thinking this in my head. And in my head, I literally say, my eyes are closed. I say in my head, what is wrong with you? And no lie, this most beautiful moment, one of the most beautiful moments of my life, out loud, Bree, one of my best friends, she says, Charles, nothing is wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. And man, I broke because I knew that was not Bree talking. She said it, but it wasn't her talking. God had used my friend to just speak to the deepest insecurity and lie, which was there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Other people had something I didn't have. Other people knew what they were doing. I didn't. And that was really the first time. It wasn't in that word, but really when I heard there's nothing wrong with you, it was a seed of like, hey, Charles, I know you and I know how you feel. And I know you feel like you don't got anything to offer, but I still love you and I still choose you. And that was the seed of this book, was that real moment. It was the culmination of a lot of things.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's the origin of where this message kind of finds itself.
Wow. Man. Charles, thanks for sharing that with us. I know it's like, especially as a leader and a pastor, it's really difficult. There are pastors and leaders who are listening to this and they're like, man, I'm feeling all those same things, but I don't feel like I can share that with anybody. I don't know where, I don't have a place to do that. I'm scared that I might lose my job, or all the same concerns that you had. I'm curious though, how dark did this get for you? Was this, did it get to the place of, hey, I got to get out of ministry. I just got to like do something else? Did it get to the place of like, I don't know if I want to live anymore? Like, what is the, to what extent did you get to a place where you're like, I want to escape this? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the reality is multiple things were going through my head. One, it was like, I do not have a desire to live.
Yeah.
I had thought through, like, oh, if I'm going to take my life, this is how it's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. So that's like there's that out.
Right.
The other outs were the responsibility and pressure of being a dad and a husband and a family. I felt like in some real ways, they're like, oh, I know I can just blow up my marriage, and that'll even disqualify. Like, I'll disqualify myself from the pressure of ministry. Right. So because I'm so afraid that, like, I can't be what my wife needs, I can't be what my kids need, and I can't be what this church thinks I am, and even a minister, if I just go sleep with somebody or build this relationship and do that, that'll kind of let me escape from all of it. Yeah. And I knew, like, oh, I can do this, like this option right here. I know this person. I know this will happen, blah, blah, blah. And so those were two very real paths that I knew were there. And it was just a matter of, like, am I going to do this? Am I just going to blow this all up so I don't have to deal with the weight of this? Because I can't. The pressure is too much. Like, there was no valve of release, it felt like. So it was like, either take your own life and you don't have to deal with any of it. Or if you don't go that far, then you can at least just make this one decision that'll kind of be like a version of that. It'll blow up everything. Right. You'll lose everything, but at least you won't have the pressure to try to be all this stuff to all these people. And
True, man. Yeah. You know, those of you guys who are watching this, listen to this, especially if you're not a pastor or a leader of an organization, and maybe you're not accustomed to feeling the weight of that. I want to tell you, the things that Charles is talking about right now are so normal when it comes to the weight of leadership. I have pastor friends all over the country. You know, I share with you what I do. And so I'm sitting Saturday night with pastors, and they're sharing with me what they're going through that they don't feel like they can share with anybody else. And this version, or, you know, a different version of this same kind of story plays out in virtually every leader's life at some point. Absolutely. Where you get to this, like, almost Elijah kind of moment where it's like, I just want out. I can't handle the weight of this. I don't know if I've got what it takes. And so you can even begin to create scenarios of saying, all right, how do I escape this? What's the best way to escape this, to mitigate the damage? And yet at the same time, I don't want to be in this responsibility anymore.
Absolutely.
And
well, it's such a, I mean, it's just such a dark and sad place to be, because I think being a pastor is a unique thing, and preaching the word of God is a unique thing. And I think it's, you know, it's so easy. Social media has made pastoring look so sexy in some ways, like, oh, it's so cool and it's so whatever. But the truth is, you talk to anybody, I don't care who they are, who they know, what they do, that you cannot escape that burden. You can't escape that weight, that responsibility of people are showing up expecting me to have heard from God for them.
True.
And they're showing up expecting me to have answers to their own life. And they don't know I don't have answers to my own life. Wow. And I don't know what I believe about this book either. Like, I don't, it's a, and I think some of that is just the responsibility of it and the call, and God graces you for it. And then some of it, I think, is unreasonable, just expectations from people. They're just like, oh yeah, I read it and I don't understand it, but you read it and you definitely understand it. And it's like,
professional at this, you should.
It's like, I am you. I'm just standing up here, but I'm you. Like, that's the only difference. And so I think, man, that pressure is so real. And that's not just in ministry, man. That's the weight of a business. That's the weight of a family. That's the weight of raising kids. Is your kids are coming to you asking questions that they don't know. You have the same ones. And I think how you deal with that pressure, where you find that release valve, is really the question of humanity. And I think we all find different ways to cope and deal with it. And the world offers solutions that seem to promise something, but are very empty and vapid. And so I think that's where I landed myself was, what am I going to do with this? Like, am I going to take these escape routes, or something's got to shift? I've got to find a different way to deal with this reality and the pain of this.
Man. Well, your friend right there at your bedside said this thing, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. It became this like monumental seed that began to germinate and grow. Where did it go from there? I mean, was this like oh, awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it. Now I'm good to go. Obviously not. So what was the journey where you began to kind of untangle some of this stuff and start to realize this?
Yeah. So that was the start. And then again, great friends, they were all like, all right, here's what we're going to do. you got to get in counseling. You're in weekly counseling. It was biweekly, or not biweekly, but twice a week. And was in that of like intensive, just like what's going on, and just start unravel. I mean, you know, it's a ball of yarn. It just used to keep going and going. So I started doing that. I adjusted my work responsibilities. So there was an intentional like 3 to 6 month season where I was like, I am not carrying everything I was carrying. Like I'm still responsible. I wasn't, it was a beautiful balance, I think, in leadership too, of, you know, sometimes when people are going through our stuff, it's like, oh, we'll take all the responsibility, but some of that responsibility, it pulls you. Yeah. So if you take all of it, it feels like, oh, see, like I'm not good enough. I can't. But like, so it was a beautiful balance of like, it didn't strip everything, but they also were aware of what I needed and couldn't handle at the time. So I adjusted my work to where
about our kids. So I've got 2 boys. I always say that the boys drive straighter with the load. They're like a truck, right? They drive straighter with the load. So to be able to still have some of that burden, right? That's still that kind of tethers you to keep you straight, right? To be a part of partnering with God and some of the like co-redemption of humanity. That's what we're called to do. That gives us purpose and meaning. But to your point, being able to pull some of that back and go, okay, let's not overload this.
Yes, absolutely. So a beautiful testament of leadership there from Mike and our team. And so I'm in counseling. I adjust my work. That shows up as different hours. Like I'm 10 to 3. I was 9 to 6. You know, 9 to 7. So I'm shorter hours. And then I physically start getting really, really healthy. Meaning, like I've always played sports and been active, and very honestly, just had a high metabolism. So I'm a tiny dude, but I'm like, oh, I started doing 75 hard. So like you're working out twice a day, drink a gallon of water, read like, so I lock into that, like get the most physically like sharp I've been in that way. And then really start looking at, I really go back to, I realized that my practices weren't working for the season. You know, I told you that it started with the church thing. And what I realized is many of us do this. We create our practices and our boundaries and our standards for our best self, not our worst self. So what we do is we build our morning routine for the guy that wakes up at 5 a.m., has an hour to read the Bible, an hour to do, you know, their centering prayers, then time to make breakfast, to make your coffee and get the kids ready. Well, it's like, well, that's your best self. Like that's when you got your good night's sleep. You've got like, but if you don't get those things, well, then your whole system for keeping you aligned is cooked because you're not like, you need to build your system for like, what do you do when you feel terrible? You didn't get a good night's sleep. Your kids are going crazy. You and your wife are frustrated. Let's build something that feels manageable there. And then if you can do that, freaking go for the moon beyond like read 12 chapters of the Bible, do all that. Like, but if the standard is I've got to be in my best spot in order for this to work, well, that's what I realized. I was setting myself up to fail because when that went away, everything went away. Wow. So I started doing 2 specific things I started doing in 2020, 7 minutes of silence. It started off as 1 minute and I could barely make it. Like I just sat there and I would make my cup of coffee in the morning and then just sit there and close my eyes, take some deep breaths. And I'm not really thinking about anything. I'm just trying, because anxiety was so in me, I'm just trying to like start my day calm and centered. So that grows to 7 minutes where I'm doing that every day. And then I started doing something called GPS, which is gratitude, prayer, scripture. It takes 2 minutes and you write down one unique gratitude. So it can't be like, I'm grateful for my wife. It's like, I got to write a specific, unique, I'm grateful for my wife because she reminds me of God's grace and joy in my life or whatever. Then, and sometimes I'll do it in a different order, but a prayer, and it was always like a 2-word, 3-word, like a short thing, like God, my friend, guide me today. God of peace, I trust you. Like something very simple. And then one little scripture. And I have this little, it's like a Hobby Lobby, like my Bible scriptures. And it's just a list of like scriptures on peace, scriptures on hope, scriptures on whatever. And so I'll go through and pick one every single day. And I started doing that every single day. And all those things together, that's the big thing I want to say. It wasn't one thing.
Yes.
If you're trying to get healthy, it's not like, oh, do this and you'll be fine. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to put all these things together. So being in counseling twice a week, having a clear work schedule, physically working out twice a day for 45 minutes a day and being physically fit, which is challenging my mind, sitting in silence for 7 minutes a day, uh, journaling and making sure I'm processing my thoughts and developing the muscle of gratitude. All of those things together start to bring me to a place where it's like, okay, I'm getting clear. And that was 6 or 8 months of a journey before I felt like, so again, it wasn't like, oh, your friend says you're fine. You write a couple gratitudes down and you're good. Like that's not how it works. You gotta give it time. And so that was really the journey that took me really through that. And I mean, it's funny, I got this little journal. I still do the same thing every single day. I get up and I scribble in my little notebook my gratitudes, and I got all these like, this is my daily gratitude. Like I write down my gratitude, my prayer, my scripture, and it's still a daily part of my centering who God is, reminding myself that I'm grateful. And then it's beautiful because then it's like, after I do that, it's like, oh, I'll go read a chapter of the Bible, or some days I do more, or some days I'll listen to something like, but that's the foundation that I've realized keeps me in a good place.
Yeah. That's so good. Well, I love the fact that you're talking about this was prescriptive, right? So it was kind of an RX for what you needed to do. But at the same time, this is also like preventative. These are things that you're putting in place that really contribute to the multiple dimensions of wellness that we have. We're not just spiritual beings. We're spiritual beings, right? We're emotional, mental, physical. We've got a lot of different aspects or dimensions of our wellness. We've got our occupation or our purpose. We've got our social, like interaction with people and the community that's around us. There are 8 dimensions of wellness. And some people can listen to you and go, wait, so I have to like add a whole bunch of stuff to my life? It's no. Actually, these are all things that you keep in balance consistently in your life. Very good. That not just help you when you're in a season where you have found yourself, really deflated completely as a human being, but now it keeps you sustained to be able to continue 100%. The work that God has called you to do.
Absolutely. Well, it just, that's a real thing. It takes that work and that intentionality. And I think, sadly, the current does not draw you to health. The current of culture, the current of responsibility, it draws you to overperforming, to people pleasing, to doing stuff that gets that engine going. And so, man, I think now what I've tried to realize is like, I just want to live my life in a way where that I have these systems that catch, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think one thing my counselor told me, I remember one of the first sessions I was in, this is 6 years ago. He said, you need something every day. He said, specifically, he's talking about depression. He's like, depression, and really a lot of things can be like this. He's like, it's a spiral. Like it just goes down and down and down and down. And he said, you need something every day, every week, every month, every quarter, and every year that you look forward to that is not you acting out of the responsibility for others, but it's just for you.
Right.
It is just like, this is something I enjoy and I'm doing it for me and it fills my cup. Because I think as ministers and even beyond that, as men, we move a lot out of responsibility. Like, oh, I got to do this for the kids. I got to do this for my wife. I got to do this for my job. I got to check on that one friend because he meant like, and so everything is giving that way. And so for me, it just created this rhythm. Like for me, my daily, for me thing is my 7 minutes of silence is me. I wake up in the morning, I make a little coffee and I just sit there and drink it. And it's just, that's my daily thing that fills my cup. I sit either in my house, I sit on my porch, I'll go to a coffee shop, sit in the corner by myself and just sit there. And it's just something like I enjoy I got a little espresso machine. So kind of the mechanicalness of it is fun to me. I drive an old 2007 5-speed that just is like, like it's loud and the doors are heavy, but that is like, I grew up around old Volkswagens. So that's kind of like in some weird way therapeutic for me, driving a very, like, so it's these little things that you piece together that you find like, okay, I need these in my life to keep me in a good place rather than, and they keep that. What happens that he's talking about is that spiral, even if it starts to go down, it has something to run into.
Yeah, it's good.
It has these habits that it runs into, and it kind of is like a bridge and a stopgap. And I think many of us, it's like, once it hits that first speed bump, it's like, oh, it's a downhill road and there's nothing stopping that thing. You know, like you don't have, it's not going to run into a friend. It's not going to run into a practice. It's not going to run into a workout. It's like, oh, you're out of here. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that's really why now I keep those things in my life. Is like, I'm an avid cyclist. I love riding my bike. I've been sick a little bit, but I'm riding my bike 4 or 5 days a week, just 20 miles, 30 miles every day, just to like, that's my mental clarity and thing. So anyways, I say all that to say, for anybody that finds in themselves of a place of pressure, responsibility, overwhelmness, you got to look back to your point at all those different areas: my mind, my spirit, my physical body, my emotions, my relationships. And you just got to add one simple thing.
One thing.
Not one thing. Don't try to do something insane. Like, it's not like, okay, tomorrow I'm going, it's like we love to do that. Like,
even though Charles was doing 75 hard right out of the gate, you don't have to go and do 75 hard, right?
Not at all. Not at all. Well, it's funny, bro. So this is what I learned about myself. My personality lends to dramatic intensity versus consistent longevity.
Yeah.
And I had to learn, and I still am learning. I don't want to be, sometimes my natural is going to do that. I'm the guy that's like, oh, we're going to work out. Let's go.
Yep, let's go.
Also, I want to, rather than doing 75, what I found specifically in my physical health, 75 hard, I did 75 hard. I would not work out for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, and then do 75 hard and then be like, and then drop off completely. Yeah. And it was like, man, I would rather, I was talking to a friend one day, and I did this for like 2 years. I was like, instead of doing that, I would rather do 10 push-ups and 10 squats a day and 10 sit-ups. And my friend was like, 10, that's it? And I was like, yeah. I said, because it's not impressive after a week or 5 days. I said, but if I tell you for the last 5 years, I've done 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and I haven't missed a day in 5 years,
wow,
you'd be like, oh, wow. That is very impressive. And so I think that's started to become my value now. It's not these big, sometimes even in church, these big things. But I can tell you, I've been writing a gratitude prayer and a scripture for 6 years straight.
True.
So that's like, no, I don't sit down and read. I do sometimes, but I don't read chapters of the Bible at a time.
Yeah.
But I've wrote down what I'm grateful for. I've prayed a simple prayer in one verse. I've written that down straight for 6 years straight.
Wow.
And that's impressive to me. And that's the man I want to be. I want to be a man of consistent longevity.
True.
And it starts with the little things, man. You don't have to do these big, massive, if that's you, some people are wired that way. I have friends, I have a friend, she wakes up and reads a chapter of the Bible every single day. And I'm just like, and she prays for an hour a day. And I'm like, bro, I'm happy for you. But I don't know. Sometimes I got that, but sometimes I don't. But I think I've seen the power of those small, consistent things.
Right. Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to consistency. Our director of operations for our organization keeps reminding our team. She's saying, hey, let's play the long game. Yeah. We're playing the long game. Good. And that's the Christian walk, right? Let's play the long game. This is a marathon. We're running a race, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yeah. And every time I read the book, The Tortoise and the Hare, guess who wins?
Yeah.
Every time, right?
Every time.
And that is part of our journey with the Lord, is that. And as you build these consistent rhythms, small, consistent rhythms into your life, you actually start to gain the fortitude and the strength to build on top of those rhythms. So your friend who reads a chapter a day and prays an hour a day, she probably didn't start there.
Absolutely.
But she got consistent with 10 minutes a day. And then it was like, okay, let's just kind of build upon that.
Good.
And so you've got an undergirding right there. I'm really curious about this because I love talking about this kind of stuff. In fact, I told you about our course, Pain to Purpose. And in that, we have a whole section about just spiritual rhythms, physical rhythms that you can implement in your life that lead to ongoing healing and wholeness, right? And it's all the things you just talked about. Yeah. But often when you find yourself at the place that you were at, where you're like rock bottom, maybe there's some people who are watching this, listening to this, and they've had a family member recently who has said, come and been really brave and forward to say, hey, this is the thoughts I'm having. These are the feelings I'm having. I don't know what to do. I'm scared to death right now.
Yeah.
The best approach is not to go, well, hey, let me tell you all the things that you need to do right here. That's not where this was a journey for you, right? Where you begin to, like you said, unravel it slowly.
Yeah.
What is, if I'm sitting here listening, I'm going, I have someone in my life or I'm feeling these things right now.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that you would tell them?
First thing I would tell them is one of my favorite scriptures of all time that says, we do not have a high priest that cannot relate to us, for he is tempted in every way, yet without sin. And to me, thinking about that, I pray to, read about, and have relationship with a God who knows what it is to be filled with anxiety and an overwhelmed feeling to the extent to where his body physically starts to sweat blood.
Yeah.
Like that is an actual physiological thing that can happen to your body where you are so filled with anxiety. Scientists would tell you, like, you have to be so anxious for that to happen. Like your body has to be set up. And
right.
to think, the first thing I would tell them is you may be sitting in a place where you feel like nobody knows how you feel.
Yeah.
And to an extent, because they've never lived your life, they've never carried your pressures, it may be true. And I know for a fact the God of the universe knows exactly how you feel.
True.
And for me, that is one of the most comforting things is when I go to pray and I throw a prayer his way, I'm not praying to somebody who doesn't understand. I'm not praying to somebody who says like, okay, I could maybe understand how that would be hard. I'm praying to a God who kneels down and says, I know exactly how you feel.
That's great.
I remember, I know exactly how you feel. And so that's the first thing I would say is know that he knows how you feel. The next thing I would say is be kind with yourself and give yourself time. You weren't having an amazing, perfect time and then wake up one day and feel this way. And to the extent you do, it may have started, but it was a progression. And so in the same way, it's going to take time to get from that place and to grow out of that place. And so I would say, be gracious with yourself. I just think we are not a problem to be fixed. We are not a broken chair that is now, okay, you got to get it and you got to do these things and you just got to fix yourself. It's not how it works. Yeah. It just doesn't work that. You're a person to be loved and cared for and seen and valued. And part of why you're feeling the way you felt is you probably didn't get exactly everything you needed as a kid. Your parents did the best they could with what they had. And for all of us, that's varying degrees. And some of us have better starts and worse starts. But the truth is you've probably got some missing pieces that you don't know are there. And you're probably, as a kid, you developed some coping mechanisms that served you at 7, but don't serve you at 37.
That's right.
And it's a part. So I think because the thought is nobody understands, I'm alone, and nobody knows what's going on. And your feelings are real, but they are not always reality. And that's something I've had to wrestle with. Is like my feelings are real. So I feel alone. I feel overlooked. I feel undervalued. That's real. But is that the reality? Is that actually like, okay, the reality is I do have friends that call me. I'm just not calling them back. Or I do have purpose because God has given me this job and I know for a fact it's helping so-and-so, but I'm just choosing not to focus on that right now. You got to be real with that. How can I acknowledge the realness of my feelings, but make sure like, are they the greatest reality? And the truth is, if you don't know who you are, you don't know what the Bible says about you. And even if you're watching this, and you're not a believer, I think you have to ask yourself, where are you getting that from? Where do you get your sense of value from? Because I think another core of this book is we gain value from a lot of places, our parent, our family of origin, making money, our talents, our promotion, our boss. And I'm not mad at any of those. They're all serve different things at different times. The only problem with those is at some point, someone can mess with it. There's going to be somebody who makes more money than you. Right. You're going to get a promotion or you won't get the promotion. Somebody's going to have an opinion about you don't agree with. Your spouse is going to let you down. So the core of this book is it's Untouchable Confidence for the Unstoppable Christian. And that untouchable part is nobody can mess with your confidence when it comes from the fact that God has chosen you.
All right. So if you're watching this, you're listening to this, we have had some major technological issues. I'm going to tell you right now, the enemy loves to live inside of technology. And Charles, he doesn't want the message that you're bringing into people's hearts. I mean, the thing the enemy wants to cause people to believe is that death is their destination. Yep. That like at the end of the day, there is not going to be any kind of hope that can be breathed into their life, that they are alone, that nobody sees them. And you were reminding us that Jesus understands, not just like can like relate. I mean, not just can reflect to us, right? Oh, it must be hard, but can actually relate to us with empathy. And I believe that is at the core what the enemy does not want us to do. He's constantly driving us to isolation. He doesn't want us to remember that we have someone who is walking with us in the middle of the valley of the shadow of death, as Psalm 23 tells us.
Absolutely.
And at the core of your book, God Chose Me, that's part of the message that you begin to hold on to and go, wait a minute, this is, okay, there is something that cannot shake, that everything else can be shaken in my life.
Yep.
If I begin to build my identity in all of these different other parts of my life, they are so fragile, so fleeting. Everything just can be gone in a 100%. Moment. It's amazing how quickly it can begin to just start feeling like, wait a minute, what happened with this thing 100%. That I thought was so established? But there's one thing. And right as you're trying to speak that into our lives and into our hearts, of course, the technology would fail. No, so we're not going to let Satan win today. Go ahead.
Not at all. Well, it's the truth, man. This book is really trying to provide people with a source that does not run dry. The Bible talks about, there's a story where the lady's at the well and he says, if you drink from this water, you're going to be thirsty again. But if you drink from me, the living water, you shall never thirst again. And the truth is, if you're trying to find identity in other places, you'll thirst again. If you try to find it in work, if you try to find it in a spouse, if you try to find it in a friend, you're going to have to find more. You're going to have to do more. And the truth is, if you find it in God, you'll never thirst again. And that's what I'm trying to get people to get, is like, hey, I'm not mad at you making money. I'm not mad at you trying to seek to get a promotion and grow and whatever. The only problem is you've got to make sure you have a handle on that stuff. That stuff doesn't have you. That's good. And the only way to do that is to find a source of confidence that nobody gave you from this earth, so nobody can take it from you on this earth. And that's where, the anchor scripture for this book is Galatians 1:15, and it's Paul talking. And he's writing to the church that kind of is like questioning, like, are you legit? Like, you used to kill Christians and now you're saying like and he starts off in verse 10. He says, I did not get this revelation from any human. Like, no human gave me this, but Jesus himself came and found me, and he gave me this revelation. In verse 15, he says, and before I was born, God chose me. And that is the anchor for this, is Paul is saying thousands of years ago, hey, I know you may have an opinion of my story, and you may feel like I'm not qualified, and you may feel like I should be somewhere else. And let me be honest with you, sometimes I feel that way. But the truth is, before I was born, God chose me, he equipped me, he called me, and now I've got to decide, the question is, will you agree with that? Will you agree with what God has said? Or will you, in some strange false humility, try to continue to punish yourself for things you feel like you've done and you need to whatever? Or are you going to say, you know what? I don't know how I got here. I don't know how I got here on this podcast talking to you. I don't know how all this thing has happened. But what I do know and what I do believe is that God has had a plan from the very beginning. He's been orchestrating my life. And the fact that I'm here means that he thinks I should be here. So I'm going to be here. Like, I'm going to show up who I am, how I am, what I know, what I don't know. And God's going to use all of it. But I'm not going to spend another day trying to please people who can't help me. And that's what I realized. Yeah. The only person that came and found me at my darkest person, my wife couldn't help me. My friends couldn't help me. God used all of them. Right. But the truth is, it was him who came and found me and spoke life and breathed a wind of fresh air into my spirit and hope. And I think, that's why, to me, even the practice of gratitude is so important, because it's reminding myself, like, as much as I feel like I could be frustrated out, I have far more to be grateful for. I have far more to think about, that there is a God who, maybe my life didn't go the way I wanted it to, but nobody else could have kept me through that. Like, nobody else could have, I'm not standing here in my own strength. I mean, it's a powerful thing. And I think it's something that, why I'm so passionate about this message is because I know what it did in my life. I've seen what it's changed in friends and people around me. And I just don't want people to live another day looking for something that God is just standing there waiting to give them, which is, hey, I can give you a source of identity, of confidence, of clarity for you, so you can know who you are and not waste another day of your life trying to prove that to people who don't know who they are. Wow. Like, I just don't. That's what we spend a lot of our life doing. We're posting stuff on social media, trying to prove to them who we are, and they don't know who they are. And so it's like, it's just not post on social media, but do it because, oh man, this is great, it's going to help people, this is awesome. But not because like, oh, well, if they see this, then I'll, Not because you're trying to get some kind of validation from, bro, absolutely, it's just, there's a quote I love. It says, it says your cheers don't mean much to me because I've heard what your boos don't mean much to me because I've heard what you people cheer for. And that's the you know what I'm saying? It's like I can't move off that stuff because it's so fickle. Like it's all over the place. And I just don't want my life to be controlled by it. I want to be able to engage with it, but I don't want to be controlled by it.
That's so good.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know, it can be really unnerving for someone, you know, as you were stepping into ministry, 20 years old, high capacity, high caliber, high charisma, lots of talent, to feel like you've got the competence to be able to do something, right? And often when we're young, of course, right? I stepped into being a youth pastor at a really large church at 22 years old. And so I'm like, I got all this figured out. Of course I know, right? Planted the church at 25. I'm like, I got this until it didn't go well.
Yep.
Right. And then it was like, oh, this is a lot harder. I don't know if I have what it takes. Right.
Yeah.
And then crisis hit my life. And it was like this thing that God used among many things in my life to untangle me from the idols that I was propping up my identity in. So very much the same story as you. Yeah. I see that story not in a way that's like, it's carbon copied, but I see a version of that story in most leaders' lives because God will allow us to get to the end of our own self-sufficiency to cause us to realize, to be confronted face to face with the end of our own self-sufficiency.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, this is, I can't do this.
No, I remember there's an old, actor. He was being interviewed back in the 90s, and he said, I wish everybody could get everything they ever wanted to realize it's not what they need or what they think it is. And, you know, some people would say like, well, that's easy for you to say, like, you've got it all. And it's like, well, the truth is he's the only person that can speak to it. Like he knows, like, I thought all of this would make me something. I remember seeing an interview with a football player, won tons of championships. And he was like, man, I thought they would do more than they did. Like, I thought amassing these things would make me feel a certain way, and they never did. It was just because once I got one, then it was like, oh, well, you got to have two. And once you get two, then it's like, well, if you get three, then that puts you in the category of people who've only and it's just an endless race of trying to fulfill something. And I think, man, for me, I think so much of that, and really what it is it's just a need to be seen. It's the need to feel like somebody cares, to feel like somebody sees me. And I quoted in the book, but it's funny. One of me and my wife's favorite movies we'll watch together. My wife is a classic movie repeater. She'll just watch the same movie over and over again. She likes old. We both do. I'll give her this. We both like old 90s rom-coms. That is our community together movies. Like, I like them
like they used to, right?
They don't, man, at all. But one of the classics, we're a big 90s Julia Roberts fan, but one of the ones is Notting Hill. And there's, you don't know the premise of the story. Julia Roberts is this famous actress, and she falls in love with just this regular guy that runs a bookstore. And it puts all this pressure on their relationship. But at the end of the movie, she's standing in front of him, and she says, at the end of the day, I'm still just a girl asking a boy to love them. And that line is so powerful to me because it's like, she has all these things, is famous, made all these accomplishments. But the truth is, like, all the way underneath all my accomplishments is just this little desire to be seen and to be loved uniquely. And I think it's so true of everyone, no matter who you are, how much money you have, from people we see in movies and to your neighbor. Everybody has the same desire. And that is, I'm just a person who wants to know that somebody cares, somebody sees me, and somebody loves me. And I think, if you find that, my submission for God Chose Me is that when you find that in Christ, when you find that in who he says you are, everything else is beautiful and extra. So like, it's not that I don't, like, I definitely want my wife to love me and think I'm special and think I'm the best. That I'll never forget, like, a year into our marriage, I was like, am I the funniest person you've ever met? And she was like, and I was like, what do you mean? I'm not the funniest person you know? Like, I like... And she was like, well, I mean, the funniest in the world? I'm like, yeah, like, I need you to say I'm the funniest person. So we all still have that. But it's like, that's on top of, oh, I know God loves me. And I know it's not trying to fill that place. It's extra and it's on top and it's beautiful. Right. So yeah, I think that's my heart, man, is that people would find that in him.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Absolutely.
Charles, man, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much for encouraging us, speaking into our hearts. And we're all on a
Absolutely.
different
Thank
journey.
you.
We're all trying to figure out what it looks like to really build and anchor our identity in Christ and in nothing else. And this work that you've put forward, God chose me. It is going to significantly impact so many people. So I'm grateful for that, man. Grateful.
Man, thank you so much. And thank you for, I said it earlier, but you're creating this space, and in your bravery and courage and moving past pain to bring value out of it is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So,
yeah. Well, thank you, man. Yeah. We're going to put links in the show notes if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll have it right below where you can pick up God Chose Me, Untouchable Confidence for the Unstoppable Christian. We'll also put Charles' website, his Instagram, where you can connect with him right there. So make sure you reach out to him and get to know a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes over there at the Metcalf family. So got to hear a little baby over there crying a second ago.
Oh yeah. You can hear them. I'm going in for reinforcements right
That's
after
exactly
this.
right. Your wife's like, hold on a second. I thought this was let's get off here and let's go. But appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Nothing is Wasted podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation and found it as encouraging and insightful as we did. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen, and leave us a rating and review. Your feedback helps us to connect to those who need these stories of hope and healing most, and to reach more listeners just like you. Also, subscribe to our Nothing is Wasted Ministries YouTube channel. Now be sure to stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us at Nothing is Wasted Ministries. Follow me at Davey Blackburn. We'd love to interact with you, so be sure to stop by and let us know how these conversations are impacting you and your story. And if you want to learn more about all the incredible resources we have available to help you navigate whatever valley you're walking through, visit our website at nothingiswasted.com. If you're ready to get started in your journey towards healing and finding purpose in your pain, we'd love to help. Simply go to nothingiswasted.com/start here for your next step. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank you, our Nothing is Wasted community, for tuning in regularly. Remember, no matter what challenges you face, whatever pain you are walking through, nothing is wasted. We'll see you next time for another incredible conversation here on the Nothing is Wasted podcast. But before you go, check out this short clip from our next episode. Thanks for joining us, friends.
So fast forward, I'm 24. I'm living in Los Angeles trying to work in the film business after college, and I became a cocaine addict. And I sat down to take my life one day. And right before I did it, like we had a roommate who had actually done it. So I knew how to do it. We had all the pills, all the stuff. And I was actually starting to do it. And I thought about that conversation I had as a kid with that lady in church. And I thought, wait a second, if there's a heaven and a hell, like I'm going to be in one of them in like 20 minutes. And I don't know anything about it. And I knew one person from college who had gotten saved. And so I called him. And it was super awkward. I was like, bro, this is a weird conversation. I'm about to kill myself. Wow. Can you give me Cliff Notes on heaven and hell? He ended up taking me to a church, and, I raised my hand in a church service. They were the come down to the front altar kind of church. Like I went down to an altar, like with cocaine in my pocket. And I walked out of church that day. And my whole life was a disaster. I knew nothing, but I told God, I said, if what I experience is real as it feels, I think I want to spend the rest of my life telling people what I just experienced.